yarn shopping therapy exists, thankfully. Hi and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mathilde. I'm a somewhat beginner knitter and today is episode 12 of my knitting podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about all of my finished objects and my current whips, and sometimes I talk about acquisitions at the end. This one is going to be a long one. I've got lots to talk about. I haven't filmed a podcast since July, I think, and this is mid-October. So as you can probably imagine, I do have quite a few things to share. But bear in mind that the reason why I haven't podcasted it in so long is because I've had tendinitis for a month and a half where I couldn't knit at all. So I was meant to film a podcast at the end of July, I think, but because of my tendinitis, which I had around mid-July, I didn't feel like I had so much to talk about. And then when I got back into knitting in September, I wanted to film a podcast, but I didn't really have time before I left for my trip, which was at the end of September. So I've got about 2 months of knitting to share, but I've got 4 months of yarn shopping. Because, when you can't knit, you have to dream about what you'll be able to knit in, the next few months. And so, yarn shopping therapy exists, thankfully. So let's talk about finished objects. I've got 3 to share with you today, one of which I'm wearing, and then I've got 2 others which I'll start with, actually. The first one is an Oslo hat, which I've started, I don't even know, October last year or something. This was meant to be a Christmas gift, but basically I messed up the decreases around the crown and I just was too lazy to go back and fix it at that time. And so I put it aside for several months, 8 months. And one of the videos that I made actually, whilst I had my tendinitis, was video to motivate me to get back into some whips that had been hibernating for a while. That I put off frogging or finishing, and one of them was this one. But basically this is an Olso Hat by Petite knit. I knitted the toddler size, I think it's the second size in the pattern. I use Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Dusty Artichoke, held double, and I think I used the recommended needle size. Now, I cast this on in October last year. I didn't really understand gauge at that point because it had only been a few months since I started knitting, and I didn't know that when I usually knit petite knit patterns I need to size up. So I think this turned out to be a size between the smallest size and the second size, because I don't think this is big enough to fit a toddler, but it's obviously much bigger than a baby beanie. But obviously this isn't going to fit my head, and it wasn't meant to, but I don't think it's going to fit a child's head either. I think it's a little bit, I don't know. I don't really have a child that can try it on. This was meant to be for a friend's toddler that I don't see very often, so since I finished it I haven't managed to try to see if it worked. I think I'll bring it when I see her next just to see, and if it works for her then I'll gift it to her as I was meant to do. But if not, I'm gonna keep it in my stash and give it to someone who's gonna have a baby, and this will obviously not be a baby beanie, but it hopefully will fit sometime for a child. I definitely made a few mistakes with that pattern around the crown, and I think this is why it's kind of bunching up here. I think at one point I messed up the decreases and tried to fix it on the row after that, and yeah, it's a little bit messed up, but I think it's still a perfectly fine beanie, and if it doesn't work for anyone, I'll just frog it and, be done with it. This is how much I've got left. So I had 2 skeins, and I think I've got about 15 grams or something. I'll put it on the screen because I haven't weighed it. But yeah, that's why I didn't make a bigger size, because I didn't have enough yarn for an adult size. But this is the first finished object, not the most rewarding finished object this episode, but at least it's done and it's not on my mind anymore, you know? The next finished object is one that I'm really excited about, and one that I hadn't cast on in my last podcast, and that is a pair of DK socks. These are the Hibernal Socks by Summerly Designs, the DK version. She also has a fingering weight version if you're interested about that. Oh, I think they look so good. I've blocked them and I've worn them like once, but I've tried not to wear them before the podcast because I know that they're going to be a bit grubby. But I think they look so good. So let me get just one to show you. It's a faux cable detail with 1x1 rib and a heel flap and gusset and just a regular toe. I used a sock set DK by Olivia and Oliver Fibers the main color is called Susurrous and the contrast color is Spruce. And I really love the socks. I really love the yarn. It feels really yummy. And the colors are gorgeous. I'm really excited because I've got Susurrous in the organic fingering base, which I want to use with a mohair for a pattern next year. So I'm really excited that I love the color and I really like the green as well. This is my first time knitting a pair of socks with contrast colors. The pattern was really clear and straightforward. I didn't have any issues at all following it. This was my first time doing a heel flap and gusset, which I think I really love, and that's probably, I'll try a few other heels, but I think I really like the fit of this. This was my first time doing a DK weight pair of socks, which is really satisfying because it was pretty quick. It wasn't like done in a weekend because I'm still quite a slow knitter, and it was faux cables, so even though you don't have to use a cable needle, it's still a little bit fiddly in a way. It's not mindless stockinette, but I'm really happy with it. I think if I were to do these again, or like for the next pair of socks that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make the leg a little bit shorter because I've got quite big calves and so it doesn't really look great. So what I do is, as you've seen, I've worn them once, but I fold the ribbing down so it kind of hides a bit of the cabling, but it's just a much better length, I think. So I think next time I'll follow that length for the leg, and then for the foot, I think I made it a tiny bit too long because, I'm used to my socks, or I'm used to garments not stretching when blocking, but obviously this is a 100% superwash yarn, not 100%, like I think it's 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon. Does that make sense? 85, yeah, I think so. But it did stretch a bit, but I've heard since, because I was like, oh, that's a bit of a shame because it is a tiny bit too big, but I've heard since that, when wearing them a lot, they're gonna shrink a little bit, so hopefully that's what happens. We don't say that often in the knitting community, that we hope that things will shrink, but just a tiny bit. I can still wear them and they're perfect. So we'll see how they wear. I think because of the nylon, it's gonna be okay. I'm not gonna wear them in shoes, I don't think. I'm just gonna wear them at home. They're not quite as warm as I would have liked, just because of the faux cabling. It's made with yarn overs, and so you have that little gaps. I don't know if you can see, but you've got little gaps that are quite, they let the breeze through, basically. They're not like the warmest ever. I'm gonna wear on a very cold day where I'm freezing, I think, unless I wore like a pair of socks underneath, which, can happen. But they are really warm and cozy and soft, so they're really lovely, and they've made me want to cast on so many other socks, which, as you'll see, because I've bought a few, I've bought one sock yarn and I've not cast on yet, so Okay, that's the second finished object. Now let's move on to the final one, which is the one that I'm wearing and which has been a long time coming. I cast this on at the end of February and I finished it just before my trip to Japan. And there's a bit of a story with it. So this is the storm sweater by Petite knit. I knit it in the size small, which is a bit surprising actually. I knitted in size small and I used a 4.5mm needle instead of the, I think it's 4mm needle required for the pattern, because my gauge is a bit tight. Now, my bust circumference is 91 centimeters, but I think I've achieved the gauge actually. I've not checked, but I think I've got the positive is recommended in pattern, which I'm really excited about. But first let's just talk about the yarn before I forget. So I used Gynt by Sandnes Garn in a Petite knit colorway called Almond or 2511. This is 100% Norwegian wool, I think. Yeah. It's quite rustic. It does soften up a bit in the wash, I've got to say. However, it smells like, what I'm assuming is spinning oil. It really smells a lot. I've blocked this. I blocked it on Monday evening, and it only was dry like Friday or even just yesterday, which was Saturday. So it's dry now, but it took a while to dry, and it's definitely still a bit smelly. So I'm hoping that goes away. If you have any tips on how to get rid of that smell, let me know, because it really, like, I think for me it's fine because I know it's a handmade knit, but I'm afraid of being a little bit, I don't know, ashamed in public because of the smell, for people who don't know that that's the smell of the spinning oil. But yeah, I mean, I still love it and I'm gonna wear it, but just so you know. I think I had purchased 15 skeins for this pattern as per the pattern instructions, and I've got one, and like, I don't think I use a lot of this. Maybe I've got like 40 grams left, maybe 35 grams left. So I've got like about 2 skeins leftovers, and I made a swatch, so bear that in mind. And it is quite like, I've got long sleeves. I was definitely a little bit afraid of that yarn, of how it was gonna feel against my skin, but I'm wearing it next to skin. Like, I've got a camisole underneath this, but I don't have any long sleeve, and it's fine. It's not like soft, but it's not scratchy as I thought it would be. So I think I'll definitely use it again. This is what it looks like. I can't really go back too much, but I'll insert a video, and I really like it. As you can see, it's quite a large amount of positives, but I think it looks, I mean, it looks a bit weird, but it is so cozy. I'm really glad that the sleeves are a good length for me. I like when they hit the middle of my palm, so they're really long, and I can like bundle up in it, which I love. But yeah, as I said, there was a bit of an issue with it. So I had knit the first sleeve, it was fine, and then I had started the second sleeve, and I was like trying to not rush, but I was like thinking that I could finish it before my trip to Japan, like a week before, which would leave me a week to block it and hopefully it to be dry, and maybe I wanted to take it with me to Japan. I wasn't sure because it's quite, you know, a thick garment. I didn't know how much room it would take in my luggage, and I only had a backpack for 2 weeks, so, you know, didn't have a lot of room. But I was thinking maybe that could happen, or at least it would be done before my trip, and when I got back I could just start wearing it and it would be great. However, when I reached the end of my sleeve, I looked around to see which needle I was supposed to use for the ribbing. And I checked my notebook, which says 4.5mm, and I checked the pattern, and I checked the needle I was using to knit my sleeve. And it wasn't 4.5mm needles, it was 4mm needle, which is the needle size that I use for the ribbing on the sleeve and the body. So what I'm assuming happened is that I finished this sleeve and I didn't change the needle when I started picking up for this sleeve, and I didn't notice until I had finished the whole sleeve. So I tried it on, and I'll insert a clip, but I don't know if you can really see in video, but in person it was really, really clear that this sleeve, I think it was this one, this sleeve was really much smaller in length and in width to that one. And I just didn't like that, and I didn't think that blocking would fix it. So I ripped it back and I knit it again, and I think because I had just, you know, knit the sleeve and I kind of had that deadline of finishing it before my trip, and I just powered through it in like 2 or 3 days. I only knit on it and I finished the sleeve before I left for my trip. I didn't have time to block it and take it with me, but at least it was done. And like I feel like if I had put it off and just maybe frog it but didn't finish it before my trip, I didn't know that I would have had the motivation to go back to it after my trip. So I'm really glad that I did that. It's done now, and I've blocked it since then, and I love it. I mean, I don't think this is the best colour on me. I don't know that the oversized fit is the best on me, but I think this is really cozy. I love that the sleeves are really wide. That's something that I really love in my sweaters, I've found. I think that's something that I have in my normal sweater as well, and I love that. I've got that on my fennel seed jacket, and again, that's my favourite part of that jacket. So I'm really pleased with the sleeves, and I really love that this seems like a complicated knit, but it's really not. It's really quite easy. I mean, you do have to... I hope the mic isn't too annoying. You really have to, you know, keep track of the charts and like the amount of rows that you're meant to do for each section, but this is just 2x2 double rib, some pearls on some sides, on some rows. This one is a little bit trickier, but in the round it's fine. When I was knitting back and forth for the back panel, I got it a bit wrong. I think there's a little bit of a mistake that you can see, but nobody's gonna notice. And yeah, and then you just repeat that and you add those pearl bumps before and after each section. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think it looks great, and I don't know that I would make it again, to be honest, because it was quite... I don't know why, but it took me a while to finish. I don't think... I was a little bit, you know, worried about the yarn, and I was a little bit worried about the fit as well, but it turned out great, so I'm really happy with it now that it's done. Those are the only finished objects that I've got. I'm happy that I finished a whip that was hibernating for so long. I'm happy that I finished this one, which was a really big project, and I'm so happy to have a finished pair of socks. But I've also been working on some other things, so maybe just before I talk about that, let me just say, in the last podcast, I had a summer whip that was the mixed Rib Cami. I was really excited about it. I still am, but I've decided to put it away for the winter because I'm more excited to knit on sweaters and cardigans, and because of my tendinitis, I couldn't finish it before the summer ended as I wanted. So I've put it aside, and I'm gonna pick it back up end of winter, start of spring, so that I can have it for next year. But yeah, I'm not gonna share it with you because I mean I had a little bit of progress on it, but not that much, and so yeah. But I just thought I would mention it because I think it's okay to, when you're not feeling a project anymore just because the season ended, or you know, for whatever reason, it's okay to put it aside and focus your attention on something else that makes you happier. That being said, this is my book club cardigan, which I'm going to talk about now, but I don't have that much progress on it because after my tendinitis, I didn't really feel like working on something for someone else. This is a project that I'm making for my friend Justine, and this is an all-over cabled, really lovely cardigan, but it's not for me. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get motivation to work on it, just because I know that at the end of it, the results won't be for me, you know? So I worked on another project for like a month or something when I got back into knitting, and I put this away, but now this has gotten my attention back and this is my priority. I really want to finish it, you know, at least before the end of the year. I think I'm gonna manage before the end of the year. I'm trying to finish it like for sometime in November, but I've still got quite a lot to do, but I wanted to share it with you. So this is my book club cardigan. This is gonna be I guess an ad because the yarn was sponsored by Rerum Natura, who were so lovely to send to me the yarn that I'm using, which is Ulysse and Bérénice. These are both in the colorway Poivre. Ulysse is a sport weight yarn. It is 100% wool and it really feels really squishy and lovely. I love it. And I'm pairing it with Bérénice, which is 55% superkin mohair, 25% silk and 20% wool. And it is scrumptious as well. It is really quite unlike any other mohair I've used, but it feels really nice. And this is the fabric, or like, I mean the project, but I mean the fabric is quite drapey and lovely. Oh, I'm so happy with it. The pattern was also gifted to me by Sari Nordlund for the cal that we were running from June till August with Sandra from Ends and Knit and Sarah from Two Pearls in a Pod. I was going to say from Two Pearls in a Knit, but that doesn't really work. So yeah, but everything that I say is my own opinion. So last time I think I had started the body in the round after splitting for sleeve. I've got this amount done. I'm almost done with this diamond, and that's when I'm gonna try and see with my friend whether she wants another full diamond before I do the ribbing, or if she wants the ribbing longer. Because I think if it were for me, that would be the point where I stopped the cable chart and I would start the body ribbing, but she's a bit taller than me and so I want to know what she would like. I'm hoping she says that she wants the ribbing longer because the cable rows take a long time, but that's okay. So I guess I don't have that much done. I'm really hoping to finish the body before the end of the month so that I can finally start on the sleeve. I'm both excited and dreading it because a lot of people have had issues with the sizing of the sleeves. They've usually sized up in the sleeves, so like maybe they're knitting size 2 for the body and then they're knitting size 3 or 4 for the sleeves. I know that I will have to do that as well for two reasons. One, I don't want the sleeves to be too tight around my friend's arms, and also I've added, I think my row gauge is a bit off, and so I've added rows compared to what the pattern stated, and so I know that I will have more stitches to pick up anyway. So I'm just a little bit worried about like how that's gonna look. I'm also a bit worried about knitting cables in the round on such a short circumference just because I've never done it and I hope my gauge doesn't change too much, but we'll see. And yeah, so hopefully next time I will at least have the body done and started the sleeve. I'm hoping to get a bit more done, but we'll see. I'm knitting size 2 for my friend because she's smaller than me but taller, and I am using 5mm needle instead of, I think it's the 4mm needles that Sari used, because I think she's a very loose knitter and I'm quite a tight knitter. Oh, I have made 2 mistakes. Okay, 3 technically. The first one is on one row I forgot to do one horseshoe cable, is it called? I think. I don't know if you can see here. It's missing one. I tried to ladder back down and fix it, but it really stressed me out because I was too scared of losing the stitches, and I've asked my friend, she said it was okay, she couldn't really see it, so I hope she doesn't mind too much. I'm trying to like recheck after each row if I've forgotten one, because I've only forgotten it on this horseshoe cable, but for the rest of the row I didn't forget. And then I also messed up around these. You start, basically this chart starts with one pearl, one knit, one pearl, and it ends the same way on the right side. And I think at one point on one of those charts I put the stitch marker on the wrong side, and basically at like for, I don't know, maybe five rows, it starts with the moss stitch, which is right next to it, instead of the pearls. But honestly, I haven't even been able to find out again where it was that I made the mistake, so I think it's okay. And then the last mistake is, again, I don't think it's going to be noticeable, but when I picked it back up after my trip to Japan, it had been 2 months since I had knitted on it, so you know, it took me a while to get my brain around what I was meant to do and everything, and so I had forgotten that I was meant to do pearl stitches on, like, the first and last stitches of each row was meant to be a pearl on the right side and a knit on the wrong side, and I had forgotten that, so I had done moss stitch for like a couple of rows, but I don't think it's too noticeable, and I'm gonna pick up stitches anyway for the button band, so, but I just thought I would mention it. It's quite an involved pattern, and like, it's fairly easy once you get into it and you understand like what you're meant to do and everything. I do still have the chart next to me just so I can check this cable, that I'm making it correctly on each row, but mostly it's just that each row on the body takes a while. Like, this is a 24 row repeat, and I think I need at least a week to do one full diamond when I do knit like 1 to 2 hours a day, depending on the day. And I do have some other projects as well, but this is my focus, and it doesn't get a lot of, you know, knitting done, I guess. That's my book club cardigan. Really excited for it, even though it's not for me. But as I said, after my tendinitis, I really wanted to work on something for me. And just before I got my tendinitis, I wanted to cast on a new project, which had just been released. And on the night that I cast that on, that's when my tendinitis got really bad and I really had to stop knitting. So I was really sad about it. And so when my wrist was much better, I just picked it back up again and I just knit on it like crazy. I mean, not like crazy, because gotta be careful. But it was my focus for a month. I am knitting the jacket number 2, my favorite things knitwear. I really fell in love with the project when it came out. I love the cable design. I really had been thinking for a while about making the sweater number 15, I think, which uses the same cables but in a different gauge and everything. And obviously this is a cardigan. I really want to make the sweater number 29, which uses the same cable but is a bit of a different construction. I fell in love with the jacket and I really wanted to make it. So I bought Jensen yarn and Easier silk mohair. Jensen is 100% pure new wool. These are 100 gram skeins for 250 meters. I purchased these from the Bichebush website because they had it, and it was still 100 grams instead of the 50 gram skeins that I think Easier do. When you unravel this actually turns into 250 grams skeins. And the silk mohair is 75% kid mohair and 25% silk, and it is 25 grams for 212 meters. This is in the colorway 6S, 6 in the colorway 6, and this in the colorway 0. So this is a white and this is a pink cream, which means that they marl quite a bit when knitting up, but I like that. The reason why I use this mohair is because I had leftovers from my normal sweater, so I thought I would use it. I mean, it wasn't much, it was less than the skein, but it meant that I could buy one less skein. I don't remember how many I purchased of these. I think at least 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, maybe. And this is the yarn. Now let's share the project. Yeah, I was a little bit crazy, I told you. So I've got, I did the back panel, I did the 2 front shoulders, then I joined in the round, but you know, it's a cardigan, so not in the round. And now I'm on the ribbing. I'm sorry, by the way, if you can hear that I'm sick. I really wanted to film this weekend, but I've been a bit sick for the last couple of days, just a cold, but I think you can hear my nose, and it's probably a little bit red from blowing it. Anyways, so I am in love with this. It's really been hard this past couple of days to put this aside in order to work on the book club cardigan, because I just want to finish this. But this is such a lovely pattern. I love the cables. I love this cable detail on the back for the shoulders. I was really scared that this was going to be hard to do, but it really wasn't. I mean, the cable increases is a little bit difficult to get around, the first one. I think it's the make one left, but the make one right is fairly easy. And I mean, it wasn't too difficult, and it's not for too long, so you can definitely manage it. And then this is such, even though it's all over cable, it's quite easy because it's only on the 10th row of the pattern repeat that you do a cable. And so, you know, for 9 rows you're just knitting and purling, which is great. And I was really happy because I had misread the pattern, and I thought it said to do X number of cables from the underarm to the end of the body before starting the ribbing, and it was like, let's say 10 cable rows. I mean, I guess I can say the numbers because if you count on her pattern pictures you'll see. So it's 12 cables, and I was like, oh, that's gonna take forever, but okay. And I wrote down on my notebook, you know, 12, because I wrote down everything in my notebook, so I wrote like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way until 12, and I do that 12 times so that I cross off every row that I make so that I know which row I'm on. I could probably read my knitting, but I just like to do that. Anyways, so I had done that, and I was like, I don't know, four cables in, and I was like, first of all, this is starting to get quite long, and second of all, that's still a long way to do before I finish the body. It's a bit weird. And so I tried it on, and I was like, no, I think that's a good length. And I reread the pattern, and it actually said 12 cables from the shoulders, and that's where I was at. I just needed to add 1 more cable, a repeat, and then I was done. So I'm really happy. I think the length is good. I don't know whether I'll do the 7 centimeters of ribbing as the pattern suggests, because I think it might be a bit too long if I do that. So I'll see. I'll knit a little bit more, and I'll try it on again. But yeah, I'm really excited to have the body finished, and then I'll start one sleeve. And this, I mean, obviously this is still taking a while because I cast this on, I mean, technically end of July, but I think I did back up in beginning of September, so this is still like a month of knitting, but I love it, and it's so squishy. I mean, it's a little bit itchy, but it's so nice. This is my first time using Jensen yarn, and I think I love it. And as I said, I want to do the sweater number 29. I think I'm going to buy the same yarn, which is going to be expensive, but it's going to be so nice. And one last thing that I wanted to say. I don't remember what I wanted to say. Oh, I'm knitting size medium, and I think it might be a bit, like, it's going to be pretty oversized. I hope that it won't be too big, like I'm swimming in it, but I didn't want it to be too small, so we'll see. And also, I am using 5.5mm needles, so I sized up in the needles as usual. Still got 3 weeks to go through and quite a lot of acquisition, so we should probably get moved on. At some point after my tendinitis, I think I just wanted to cast on a beanie, because I had that yarn in my stash for a while. It's a really lovely yarn, as you're gonna see, and I had wanted to cast on that beanie for, you know, about a year, and I was afraid that if I didn't cast it on, I just never was going to cast it on, and I wouldn't have it finished for winter, and it just, you know, was gonna stay in my stash and everything. So I casted on the Cashmere Beanie by Gregoria Fibers. This was in my winter knitting plans from last year, so you know. And I am using Cardiff Cashmere Classic, which is 100% cashmere, and it is the colorway 511. This is a sport weight yarn, and it is 25 grams for about 112 meters. I've got 3 skeins, which 2 of them were gifted to me by my aunt and one I purchased myself. And this is the loveliest yarn ever. This is so squishy and so soft, and it's so nice to work with. I am in love. I'm in love. And the Cashmere Beanie is a 1x1 twisted rib, or half twisted rib, I guess, because you're only knitting through the back loop, but you're pulling the normal way. And this is the amount that I've got done. So I've still got quite a long way to go. This is only a project that I'm picking up, you know, 5 minutes here and there, 1 hour when I'm on my lunch break, if I don't have any editing to do, but it doesn't really get a lot of attention. So, but we're still mid-October. I don't have need for a beanie right now, so I'm taking my time. But this is so addictive to knit on because the yarn. And the one thing that I would say about the yarn is that is quite annoying. I think maybe it's just because of the twisted rib, maybe. But when I'm knitting through the back loop, I tend to go through the yarn, like through the loop. So basically sometimes I have like half a stitch, which does create sometimes, you know, my stitches aren't perfect, which you can probably see. I always try to fix it, but yeah, sometimes I do that a bit messily, unfortunately. But I really love it. I love the pattern, and I'm in love with the yarn. I think next year I'm gonna buy a sweater quantity to make something, because this is so luxurious but so lovely, and I would really like to have a sweater made with that yarn, but we'll see, because that would be really expensive. At least this one was quick to talk about. Let's talk about the project that I took with me when I went to Japan. So as I said, I only had a backpack. I couldn't take a lot with me. If you're curious about Japan, I will maybe talk a little bit about it at the end, but I'm editing a vlog about it at the moment. So this, hopefully, if I manage to make a video that's not too disjointed and that's interesting to look at, I will post it sometimes in the next few weeks. But I did take a project with me. So I didn't have a lot of room. I wanted to take my beanie actually, but these were metal needles and I was really scared that they wouldn't go through security. So I decided finally frog a hyper knitting whip that I had on my needles for a while that was just too small. I made a video about it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but that was the Friday Slipover by Petite knit. And ignore my frogged yarn, because I haven't steamed that one yet, but I frogged it and I cast on in the airport. So I'm glad to say that my wooden needles went through security just fine. I had put needle stoppers on them, so maybe that's why, but I didn't have any issues at Paris or in Tokyo, or even I took some flights from Tokyo to Fukuoka and Fukuoka to Sapporo and Sapporo to Tokyo, so I didn't have any issues at all. And yeah, I cast on while we were in the airport, and this is how much I got done during the whole trip. That's a bit of a lie. I have picked it back up since I came back, and I have added like a centimeter, maybe a centimeter and a half, but I mostly got everything this done. Please ignore the crumples. This was in a small bag in my backpack. So I had previously cast on size S, size small, using the recommended needle size. Since then I've learned my gauge, so I'm knitting size medium using 4.5mm needles, I think. The writing on the needles disappeared, so I can't check, but I think that's right. And yeah, basically you cast on and knit the back panel with the shaping of the increases. Then you pick up for one shoulder, knit with increases, pick up the second shoulder, knit with increases, join for the neckline, and then you add some increases for the armholes, and then you join in around. And I've got about, I would say like 10-12 centimeters done before the end of my trip. And the reason why I didn't have much more is because I ran out of yarn. I didn't take all of my yarn because first of all, this was frog yarn, so this is what it's looking like. I still have to steam most of them. I had 1.5, like a bit less, no, I had a bit less than 1 skein left of the mohair and the merino, still wound up and unused, so that's what I took with me. So this is like less than 1 skein of merino and mohair. I'll talk about the yarn just after. So I think that's pretty good. And I think I've got, I know in total I had 3 skeins of mohair and 3 skeins of merino, so I don't know what all of this is, but I will definitely have enough to finish the garment, but we'll see how much I've got left at the end. Unfortunately, this will be newly yarn, so I don't know what I would use it for, but we'll see. Anyways, the yarn that I used, unfortunately, I don't have any skeins leftovers to show you, but it was Knitting for Olive Merino and Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Marzipan. So the Merino is a 100% extra fine Merino, and the Soft Silk Mohair is a regular silk mohair. Don't remember the exact content right now, but yeah. Again, I'm not sure that this color is the best on me, but at least it fits. I think it's even going to be a little bit oversized, but that's good. I would rather it be too oversized than too small, as it was. So I think I'm going to finish the body before I do the neckline and the armholes, just to be sure that I have in... Well, maybe I should do the neckline actually. We'll see. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm really happy that this is back on the needles and almost over. I mean, I still have at least 2 weeks of knitting to do, and this isn't my priority because the book club cardigan is my priority, but then the second one is my jacket number 2 because I'm in love. But hopefully this will be done soon as well. The last whip that I've got to show you is going to look a little bit ridiculous because I only cast on yesterday and I've already had to frog and restart it, but it is going to be my Porcelain Sweater. This is a pattern by Lene Holme Semser. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. I mean, I'm sure you know it. It's a very popular pattern. It looks gorgeous. It's a colorwork design, 3 different motifs, and this is going to be my first ever complicated colorwork pattern, which I'm really excited for, but a little bit scared of. So I've got my swatch, which is gonna look a little bit weird because I'm gonna explain why. Oh, doesn't this look gorgeous? Let me talk about the yarn first actually. I am using, or I'm gonna use, this is the star of this sweater. This is Olivia and Oliver Fibers in organic merino in the colorway Foliage. This was from her Endless Autumn collection, as was this yarn, which came out I think like March this year, where I bought a bunch of yarn, which I'm gonna actually talk more about that after. But anyways, this is gonna be the start of the show, because as you can see, this is not a tonal, it's quite variegated, and you can see hopefully that there's some orange brown undertones that peek through, which I think is going to look so pretty. I'm holding the green with Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Dusty Olive. Actually, I can tell you, this is 70% mohair, 30% silk, which I think is the perfect match. I had like 1 skein left over from a project from last year, so I thought I wouldn't need to purchase as much green mohair, which was good. And then I am pairing it with Tin Peer Gynt by Sandnes Garn, which is the same as Gynt, but just a fingering version. This is in the colorway 1002, I think it's just called white, and it is 100% Norwegian wool. And I'm pairing this one with Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway cream. Again, I had leftover from my sweater number 18, so I could buy one less skein. This is the color combo, which I think looks so good. I'm so excited about it. And this is a swatch. And I am a tight knitter, so I'm using, I think the recommended needle size is 4mm. I'm using 5mm for the stockinette and 6mm for the colorwork. So the bottom part of the swatch is not that. This is, I think, 5.5mm for the colorwork and 4.5 for the stockinette, and the top part, because I was too lazy and I just frogged the top of my swatch to redo it. And maybe my swatch will be wrong. Maybe my gauge will be wrong, but we'll see. And this is 6mm for the colorwork and 5mm for the stockinette. And as you can see, it's a little bit noodly and a little bit, you know, not really regular, but I think that's because of the fact that the yarn was, I had blocked this swatch and then I frogged it and used it again, so without like steaming it or anything. So it looks a bit weird, but hopefully it won't be that way when I actually knit with it. The thing that I was really struggling with was, first of all, figuring out my gauge, but also figuring out which size I wanted to make. If you know the Porcelain Sweater, the pictures of the designer look really gorgeous, but she's wearing more positives in that picture than the pattern it intends. So she's wearing 25 centimeters of positive ease, and in the pattern it says that you're gonna have 15 to 20 centimeters of positive ease. I think it's actually more 15 centimeters than 20, because all of the pictures I've seen from people who've knit the correct, like the size recommended for them with the correct gauge, they don't have a lot of positive ease, and I really want the same fit as the designer. Obviously, you know, she promotes a design with a certain amount of positive ease, you're going to want the same amount. So I don't know why the pattern doesn't have that amount of positive ease, but anyway, so I'm going to knit a size large. Now, as I said before, I've got a 91 centimeter bust circumference. It kind of depends on, you know, the days, but I should be knitting a size medium, and I should, if I had the correct gauge and the pattern is correct, I would have about 25 centimeters of positive ease. But because I think the pattern is wrong, maybe it's not. I mean, we'll see. Maybe this is going to be way too big, but I'm going to knit a size large and hope that I get at least 25 centimeters of positive ease. I don't want too much positive ease, so this might like kind of backfire and be way too big, but I really don't want this to be too tight. So last night I started and I cast on with my friend Sandra. We went on a Zoom call. I mean, it wasn't a Zoom call, it was a Discord call, but we went on the call and cast on together, which was so lovely. And she cast on size large, and she has a bit of a larger bust than me, but not that much, and I cast on for a size medium. But then after our call, she sent me a photo from one of her friends who knitted the Porcelain Sweater, and it's definitely a bit tighter, even though she had the right gauge. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should knit a large. So I'm casting on a large, and we'll see where that gets me. I don't have that much to show you because I had done, you know, 10 rows before the end of a call, but I had to frog and I've got just like 2 rows, so this is ridiculous, but this I cast on at least. And you know, I'm gonna do the back panel and I'll see, depending on that, if it's too big I might frog and do a medium instead, but I think casting on the back panel, that will be like my big swatch. And you know, if I have to do it again, that's fine, I will do it again, because I just want this, even if this takes me forever to do, I really want this to be a garment that I like. I'm not too worried about the colorwork on the wrong side because that's what I did for the swatch, and because I wanted to practice, and I think it looks okay. I didn't, however, oh yeah, I made a mistake here in the chart. These are not supposed to be here. But I didn't make any floats. I just, like, I've got 5 stitches without catching my yarn, because when I tried it, I mean, I tried it once, but you could kind of see the green peeking through, and I really didn't want that. So let me know if for like 5 stitches you would catch your floats or not. I think I would prefer to, but I'm just a bit unsure on how to do that. Maybe I should learn before I cast this on, but you know, life. So yeah, that's my porcelain sweater. We'll see how much I get done before next podcast, because this is at like the bottom of my list of priorities. But I'm happy to have cast this on, and yeah. I'm really excited actually for my next cast on, which is going to be a stockinette project, because whilst I love my cabled projects, they do take a while and they're not really mindless. So I'm happy to have the Cashmere Beanie, because even though it's twisted rib, it's still a bit mindless, but I'm craving stockinette, and I'm craving the next cast on that I want to make, because I've been wanting to make it for a while and everything. Anyways, let's move on to acquisitions. I've got quite a lot to show you. I've got yarn that I bought whilst I couldn't knit, you know. I've got yarn that I bought in Japan, and I've got yarn that I bought for specific projects, or one that I bought because I wanted to try continental knitting to avoid any more wrist pain and to practice. And I didn't want to start with a huge project. I don't think I'm actually going to start with the project that I will talk about. So maybe we'll talk about that first. After I finished my pair of socks, I really wanted to buy some socks yarn, and I also really wanted to buy Fil Colonna Veta. I wanted to buy it as a sock yarn, but also for a babe project that I want to make to learn continental. So I bought this one, Fil Colonna Veta. It is 80% Spruce Merino wool and 20% nylon. It's 50 grams for 210 meters. This is used fairly often by knitters for either, you know, socks, baby projects, or even for sweaters held with a mohair or alpaca or something. This is my first time using it, so I'm really excited, and I'm gonna use it to knit a teddy pants for a baby that I don't have in my life at the moment, either for me or for someone else. There's no baby around me, but I want to practice continental knitting. I think a small project like that is good. I didn't really want to knit a beanie stockinette. I really want some ribbed beanie, so that didn't make sense. And I mean, it's good to have a baby knit somewhere in my stash that I can just gift to someone whenever someone has a baby, I think. And I love this color. This is the colorway 352. I don't remember what it's called, but it's kind of like a bright rusty orange, which I think looks really cute. And the reason why I have not cast on, I started to make a swatch, but I just couldn't figure out how to make the pearls the continental way. I've tried Norwegian pearl, I've tried something else. I haven't managed it yet. My friend Sandra sent me a video of how she pearls, which is a little bit different. I've not tried it yet. I'm just not in the right state of mind right now to try a new technique like that, which is going to change my gauge, which is going to change, you know, a lot of things. And so I've begin my swatch, but I've put it aside. Like I began it with trying to learn the pearls and I couldn't, so then I did one stockinette continental and purling English style, but obviously that's going to be a bit tricky. And you start the teddy pants by doing the legs, and these start with, I think, 2x2 ribbing. So I don't have that in me. I'm gonna learn the continental with another project, which I'll talk about in the next podcast. But I also bought some Fil Colonna Veta in this bright red colorway, which is 218, to make the main coast socks. I think that's what they're called by Somali Designs. I've not cast this on because I've got lots of other projects. I think I want to finish at least one of my 2 small projects, so the beanie or the Friday Slipover before I cast this on. But aren't these so fun? I don't know, maybe this would fit me for like a sweater or something. But I'm excited to try red for the first time for like accessories. First purchase were these. I've got 3 of these. And then another really exciting purchase that I made. So I've told you that I've fallen in love with the Cardiff Cashmere Classic. And there was a website from which I usually order my yarn, which is a French website. She has a lot of selection. She has Knitting for Olive, Sandnes Garn, Gepard Garn. She has a lot of different brands, which I really love. And she had I think 10 or 15% sale of everything. And I was like, I think this is the moment to buy Cardiff Cashmere. But they didn't have the colorway that I wanted. Or they didn't have enough in stock for the colorway that I wanted. I wanted a very neutral black, navy or white to make an Elizabeth blouse by Petite Knit. Because that's not too much of an amount of cashmere to buy. That's, I think, 10 skeins for my size, which, you know, is expensive, but it's not like 20 skeins to buy for something else. So I really wanted to buy that, but they didn't have enough in stock. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can buy Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere. That way I can buy the same amount and it would still work. And they had enough of the colorways that I wanted. So I purchased 10 skeins of Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere in the navy. This is navy. Let me keep going. So I did that, and then a little bit after that I was looking through the Elizabeth blouse because I was really excited to obviously have that yarn and use it. And then I was like looking through the list of yarns that you could use, and I was like, there's no Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere here. And so I looked at the yarn and it's a lace weight, whereas Cardiff Cashmere Classic is a sport weight. And I was like, oh, that's not gonna work. So I was like, oh, that's a shame. What do? I don't think I could cancel my order. So I was like, you know what? It's still pretty expensive yarn, but I can hold it with something else, a fingering or something, and make something else. And that will be fine, and that will still be lovely. It'll just be an even more expensive garment. And then I received an email from the website owner. The website is no2. I will link it down below because it's really great. I love it. If you're looking for yarn in France or even maybe in Europe, I don't know. She emailed me and she said, I'm so sorry, but actually we don't have enough of the navy blue that you ordered. Can I send you another colorway or even another yarn in that quantity? So I checked. She still didn't have enough of the Cardiff Cashmere Classic, so I looked at the other colorways for the Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere, and I selected the white. Now, she also said in that email, like, if you want to cancel your order, that's fine. So I could have cancelled my order, but I still really wanted that yarn, and I wanted to, you know, it's still 10 or 15% off, which is still a lot for a cashmere yarn, so I still bought it. I still have it in a plastic bag because that's just easier, but this is Knitting for Olive compatible cashmere. This is so tiny. And this is 100% cashmere, and it is 25 grams for 150 meters. This is in the colorway cream, which I think is the perfect color. Like, I've used it, like I have the mohair and I love it. So this is a lace weight. Now, since then, I've decided that I think I'm gonna buy Pure Lana by Garn to hold with it to make a Celine cardigan by Merino. I'm really in love with that pattern. I think a white cardigan like that is gonna be really useful in my wardrobe, and I think this is going to be really lovely yarn to pair with it. I'm really excited to try Garn. I haven't bought it yet, but I think I'm going to buy it before next podcast, so you know, you'll see it soon, and I think this is going to be lovely. So this is really a splurge. Obviously, me not being able to knit for a while made me buy a lot of yarn, which, you know, isn't always the best, but I am planning on knitting everything, and like you know, I'm trying to now, I mean, this is a lot of yarn, but this is like 4 months of yarn shopping, so I think it's not too bad considering I have a set budget for each month and I kind of stick to that. Now let's talk about the final purchase before we talk about the Japan trip and yarn that I bought. So I've talked about Olivia and Oliver fibers before in this video, and from her Endless Autumn collection I also purchased this Sari silk in the colorway chestnut. So this is 74% baby Sari alpaca and 26% mulberry silk. It is 50 grams for 300 meters. I think I've got 4 skeins of this and I love it, and I really wanted originally to buy a fingering weight yarn to pair with it. I was thinking knitting for Olive Robin or something, but then I fell in love with the Esther sweater by Petite, and that one unfortunately doesn't use a fingering weight but a DK weight. So I couldn't really, I mean I looked around and the only colorway that I could find that could probably match this was Jensen in one of their Rust colorways, but I wasn't 100% sure that it would match, and also it would be pretty expensive. So I actually decided to custom order from Olivia and Olive Fibers their organic DK in the same colorway chestnut. That way I was sure that the colorway was gonna look good, and you know, this is gonna be a really expensive sweater, but I think it's gonna be lovely. I'm really excited to try Sari in a garment because I've never tried it before, and this is lovely. This is 100% non-superwash fine merino, and it is 100 grams skeins for 225 meters. I bought 5, so I've got 4 skeins or 4 hanks of the Sari and 5 of the organic DK, which should be enough for an Esther sweater, hopefully. And this is what they look like wound up. Oh, that looks so good. Doesn't this look like just scrumptious? I love it. And I've made my swatch, so I'm not gonna cast on quite yet because I want, as I said, I want a stockinette sweater in the meantime. Like, I love textured knits, but I just need a little bit of a break after my cables, and so, but I still made a swatch because I really wanted to see how the yarns would look together, and this is it. I think I've reached gauge with 5mm needles. I think I've written it down somewhere, but I've definitely sized up in the needles as usual. I think this is really, it's not quite drapey actually, it's a little bit, I mean it's a little bit drapey, but, and I like that this Sari is really fluffy, and so you can't exactly see the pattern, but I think it's gonna look really good. I think I've messed up some stitches by the way in the swatch, but that's okay. I think this is gonna be so nice. So I'm really excited to cast it on, even though it's not gonna be right now, but this is definitely gonna be a sweater for this full winter, and I'm happy about that. Let me know what you think about the fact that you can't exactly see the motif. I don't think I mind, but I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you would still go with it, or if you would use maybe, I mean, I'm gonna go with it because I bought that yarn and I'm gonna use it. But yeah, just to know what you guys would do. Okay, last acquisition. Obviously this is a bit of a special one. I went to Japan, as I said. I'm not going to talk too much about it because, as I said, I've got the vlog coming up, but it was a really lovely trip. We didn't really stay in the usual cities that people stay because we went last year and we had already done Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka and Hiroshima, and also Nagano and like the surrounding Japanese Alps, which were really great. But this year we went with a couple of friends that are a couple. For a week we went to Kyushu, which is an island at the bottom of Japan. We went on a road trip, and then my boyfriend and I just went alone for 4 days in Sapporo. Again, that's on the island of Hokkaido, at the top of the country, and then we flew back down to Tokyo for just 2 days before we flew back home. So I went to Walnut Tokyo, which was a lovely yarn shop. I really would have liked to go to Kyoto because they also have the flagship store there, which I think is a bit bigger than the one in Tokyo, but obviously that was meant to be for this trip, and last year I wasn't that much into knitting yet, so I didn't go to any yarn shop. That's the only yarn shop that I went out, but it was really lovely. I really wanted to buy some Woolfolk yarn there because Woolfolk I think is a US company, so I could buy from them, but the shipping would be probably expensive, and then I don't know about customs, how much they would be, and the yarn in itself is quite expensive, so I thought being in Japan would be the perfect opportunity for me to buy their yarn without the shipping and customs, but they didn't have enough of the yarn that I wanted in any colorway, so they only had like 5 skeins and I needed, I don't know how many. I mean, I was gonna buy 6, but I think I would need even more for the sweater that I wanted to make, but it's not released yet, so I don't know how many balls or skeins you need for that. But yeah, they didn't have enough, so I looked around the store at what else I had my eye on, and I really wanted to try their own yarn. So Walnut Tokyo have a yarn brand called Amirisu, yeah, this. And so I bought some yarns. The first one that I bought is called Swing. It is their fingering weight version. This is 100% Spruce Merino. It is 100 grams for about 460 meters. It's the colorway Cave, which is a really black yarn, which is what I wanted. I think I want to use this. I bought 2 skeins, which should be like 900, a bit more than 900 meters, and I really want to make a summer top out of it next year, I think. So yeah, I bought this beautiful yarn. Honestly, it's not as soft as like this Super Merino, for example, but it's really lovely and it's really squishy, and honestly I don't know if it's really fingering. I mean, maybe. But it looks really nice and I'm really excited about that, so I bought 2 skeins of that. I wanted a sweater quantity, so I was looking around and I didn't really want to buy a sweater quantity of fingering weight because I don't want to make a fingering weight garment quite yet, sweater. So I thought about DK and I looked around. They had a few yarns brands that I could buy from France, so I thought that would be a bit of a shame, so I bought some Amirisu again, but this one is their Stroll DK weight yarn. They also have some hand-dyed versions of those yarns, but I didn't really want any of those. I really wanted, you know, regular colorways. So this is in Midnight, which is a navy blue, which I think would be perfect for any garment. This is again 100% superwash merino wool, and it is 100 grams for about 228 meters. So I bought 5 skeins, I think, which should be enough for a DK weight sweater. It's a bit on the smaller amount of what I would need for, you know, any sweaters, but I know that I could make the Stick Season sweater by Rebecca Clow. I would make it without the sticks personally, but I really wanted a drop shoulder sweater. I could make that, or I haven't really looked at any other patterns that I could make. I could make a cardigan if I want. I don't know quite yet. I think I want something a bit special that would remind me of Japan, but I don't really know. Would it just be a garment designed by a Japanese designer? Maybe. I haven't really looked at any that I want in it. Could it be maybe a colorwork design, maybe with something that does remind me of Japan, even if it's just something about nature or something, because we traveled a lot around in forest and stuff like that, so that could remind me of my trip. But if I can't find a pattern that I really like that does remind me of Japan, then I would just knit a regular drop shoulder and the yarn would still remind me of my trip. So I'm really happy with my purchase. This was quite expensive, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. When I arrived at the checkout and she told me the price in yen, and I converted it and I was like, I could have bought more. But anyways, so I bought 5 of this, which was 3,520 yen. So that totaled for 17,600 yen, which I think isn't too bad for a DK weight sweater. Obviously, it's very expensive, but I mean, for a small business yarn, I think it's okay. Then for this was 3,520 as well, but so because I only bought 2, that was 7,040 yen total. And then I bought one more thing, a small thing. This is Mominoki yarn. This is a sock yarn in the colorway Dijon. It's their Sock Happy 50 grams skein, so it is 80% wool and 20% biodegradable polyamide. I don't think this is actually Japanese. I think this is maybe German. I'm not sure. But I really love the color. This is quite a bright yellow. I don't know what I'm going to use this for because I only bought 50 grams. Honestly, I should have bought 100 grams to make a pair of socks, but maybe I can use it either as a contrast color for a pair of socks, or I could use it for a blanket that I want to make next year. But that's a blanket that I want to make with my advent calendar, and I don't know the colors that I'm going to get in that, so we'll see if that goes. But you know, worst comes to worst, I can use it. I can always use this for a pair of socks, like contrast color or something. But yeah, I love the pop of yellow. I don't have anything in yellow. I don't think I would wear something in yellow, but I think for socks or an accessory, a home accessory, I think this would be great. And this was 220 yen. No, 2,200 yen, sorry. So in total, all of this yarn was 26,862 yen, which amounts to this in euros and US dollars, which is pretty expensive, but that was kind of my like souvenirs from my trip, so I'm not too mad about that, and I'm really happy to have it. I think that's actually it for today. There was a lot to go through. I hope it wasn't too much. I hope you still enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it. I've been wanting to film a podcast for a while, so I'm really happy to have that one done, and I'm actually already excited for the next one. You may have seen that on my channel I've posted a lot of pattern roundup videos because, you know, as I said, I couldn't knit, so I didn't have any podcast to share, and I was really in the kick to film those kind of videos, but I think that kick has went away for a little bit, so I'm gonna focus on, I think, some knitting vlogs and some podcasts that I hope you will enjoy. I really want to, you know, this is a hobby for me, filming this, and I really want to make videos that I enjoy filming, editing and posting, and so it's a bit all over the place, but hopefully you still enjoy it. Let me know if there's anything that you would like to see in the next couple of weeks. I do have some ideas. I do have my Japan vlog that I still need to finish editing, but that's gonna take a little bit of a while because I have got like a lot of footage to go through, and I've got my book club cardigan vlog that is gonna come when I finish that one, so hopefully it won't take too much longer. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in again. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe or even check out my Instagram and TikTok accounts. I do post more regularly there than on YouTube. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!